Hello and welcome aboard WhalePod to another Genshin Impact video. I'm your Captain Whale, and before we start things off, I'm just going to get this out of the way here and now, right in the intro. If you do end up liking this video, make sure to like, comment, and sub to the channel if you have not done so already. All three of those help me out immensely and cost you only a few moments of your time. Now, the purpose of this video, we are going to be reviewing Nilou today. She has been out for roughly 7 days as the time of recording this video. And so I thought I'd give you my impressions on how she is as a unit, where she has to go in the future of Genshin Impact. Is she as good as she's gonna get? Can she get better?
Like this, then move like that. Yep, that's it.
I doubt that was it, Nilou. I just moved you around randomly. If you want to see a real dance, you gotta use her elemental skill 4 times in quick succession. But now, let's get into Nilou as a character. As a character, Nilou is in a pretty awkward spot, nestled between Cyno, the character shown off for Sumeru in the Dainsliff story overview quest before Genshin Impact version 1.0 even released, and the Dendro Archon herself will likely be the very next banner. We know Nahida has been drip marketed for version 3.2, and while it is not confirmed whether or not Nahida will be in the first phase of 3.2, I do believe she will be. Now, Nilou, however, I do believe will end up being the Kokomi of the Sumeru arc. Kokomi started off as an objectively bad unit because she was locked out of critical hits at a time when the game's meta was very attack and crit focused. A character that scaled off of things other than attack, or benefited from things other than attack, and could not crit was very unheard of at the time. However, as she got new pieces added to her repertoire, she saw a lot more interest on her first rerun alongside Raiden Shogun in version 2.5. As between her release and rerun, she received a new dedicated artifact set, and saw even higher popularity in her second rerun as the final piece of Genshin Impact's elemental system puzzle had at last been released, and Kokomi's Hydro application capabilities with Dendro for Bloom, Hyper Bloom, and Burgeon catapulted her popularity. I do feel like Nilou will have a similar story here, where the people who really love Nilou's design will get Nilou now and focus on other characters later. But she definitely, her compositions are very samey right now due to basically due to the very small pool of Dendro units to pair her with. But now let's get into the actual review. I've built up my Nilou. She has pretty decent crit stats despite not really caring too much about crit in a reaction-focused Bloom Doom team. 30% of that crit rate and 60% of that crit damage are coming from her Constellation 6, which we'll go over later. So I have a lot less investment into crit than it might appear by looking at those stats. Still, 49.4 and 145.7 are decent ratios. 133 energy recharge is lower than a vaporized Nilou wants, but perfectly fine for a Bloom Nilou, as Bloom Nilou doesn't really focus too much on anything other than her elemental skill. My Nilou is also not wielding any sort of Hydro damage bonus in the form of either a goblet or a set bonus, which is perfectly fine for Nilou. Now let's get into Nilou's weapons. Nilou's best in slot is, of course, the Key of Kaj Nisut, also known as the Cricket Bat, or I know there's another nickname going around for it, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. I know they're calling Cyno's Spear the Paddle because of how it looks, but this is actually where I do think Nilou's biggest shortcoming comes into effect here, and that is how clear-cut of a best in slot her best in slot is. I do believe the only other HP substatted sword in the game is the 3-star Cool Steel, which, while you will likely be able to Refinement 5 it from just how many copies you get of that by losing the gacha, it is honestly a pretty terrible weapon overall. As such, Key of Kaj Nisut is leagues above anything else Nilou has available to her, but we will show off some other options for her. Jade Cutter is actually a pretty decent weapon for, well, Vaporize Nilou in particular, because she does care about being able to crit when she is using elemental reactions that can crit. And since she's HP scaling, both the Protector's Virtue boosting her max HP and the low base attack will either help or not bother her. help for the former and not bother for the latter. She does also have some elemental mastery scaling to her. So Freedom Sworn is all, well, not elemental mastery scaling, but she is very heavily reaction focused, no matter which playstyle you choose for her. Bloom or Vaporize, those are really the only two viable ones for Nilou right now. So since both of those are reaction based, elemental mastery will help you out there. Of course, a key does bring itself even more leagues above the competition with the fact that the Sunken Song of the Sands will convert over extra elemental mastery based on max HP after using her elemental skill 3 times, which is more than enough considering if you are just going for raw elemental skill output, you can just get that all in just the cast time where you choose either between Aura or the dance. Or the sword dance. The spinny dance or the sword dance. Other 5-star weapons, Vaporize Nilou only can make okay-ish use out of Haran Gappaku Futsu because of the 12% all-elemental damage bonus. However, the other part of the passive, since it revolves around normal attacks, will never be useful for her, since her normal attacks hit like a wet blanket, and her elemental skill, even though overwrites her normal attacks to be considered elemental skill damage and will not benefit from anything that benefits normal attack damage. Similarly, Miss Splitter is decent on Vape, but she definitely does not take advantage at all of that 674 base attack, and it's really only good for the all elemental damage bonus. And she can get 2 stacks, but can never take full benefit of the 3 stacks. Anything attack-based like Summit Shaper here, absolutely worthless for Nilou. Aquila Favonia, absolutely useless for Nilou. Skyward Blade, the energy recharge is decent, but everything else probably pretty darn useless. Nilou has pitiful attack for the Sky Piercing Fang. Crits only matters to Vaporize Nilou, or if you're doing some sort of main DPS with the Sword Dance. As for 4-star options, Zephos' Moonlight, the new 4-star, and also the weapon which Nilou was shown off with in the trailer, is indeed a good choice for Nilou, as the elemental mastery will not be wasted on her, and the extra energy recharge is good, and she will pass 30% of that energy recharge to the whole party. This is definitely for a more reaction-based Nilou, focusing less on HP, but once again, HP will boost the reactions as we see later, so while this is a good option, it is still completely overshadowed by the Key of Kaj Nisut if you have access to it. In a similar vein, Iron Sting is good for, I'd honestly say for just the Sword Dance stance and Vaporize Nilou, because, well, it does have Elemental Mastery, and the Aura that applies Hydra, which is most commonly used in Bloom teams, doesn't do any damage, so it won't proc the Iron Sting's Infusion Stinger at all. But it is still a decent weapon if, well, it is forgeable, so it's completely free to play accessible. And is, fairly easy to acquire because of that. So if all other options fail and you don't want to fall back on a bad old cool steel, you can put an Iron Sting on her. Sacrificial Sword is a very interesting one for Nilou, because while it is mostly meant for, getting bursts up with extra energy production from both the massive 61.3 energy recharge and just the double elemental skills, I will say Sacrificial Sword does have unique utility on Nilou, as it allows you to have 100% uptime on both of Nilou's dance stances, the Aura and the Blade Infusion. So it does hold some unique utility there. I do think as far as other 4-stars that could be mentioned goes, Sapwood Blade is decent on, I don't know, I think only Sword Stance Nilou, and not so good on a, really just like Sword Stance. I don't really know how much Aura would get out of it. It's good on either Bloom or Vaporize if you don't have better options, because it does give you Elemental Mastery, which, since both Bloom and Vaporize are reactions, they will get damage boosts from the 60 Elemental Mastery. I would honestly, since you're already going to be wanting to pile heavily into energy, well, no, elemental mastery and HP, I wouldn't necessarily recommend a Favonius sword on Nilou. If you want a Favonius sword, put it on someone else in the party, like Bennett for Vaporize, or Dendro Traveler for Bloom. And having the lower base attack on Bennett won't foul Nilou up at all, because, well, Nilou doesn't benefit from her attack stat at all. As far as other 3-stars go, besides the cool steel, the Dark Iron Sword is elemental mastery scaling. Nilou's teams are almost exclusively reaction-based, so if you don't have any 4-star elemental mastery weapons, don't have the sword billet for the Iron Sting, etc., just talk to Chen the Sharp, the grilled tigerfish seller in Leah, ask him how the fishing business is going, and eventually you'll get a treasure chest icon that will give you the only copy of Dark Iron Sword in the game. Harbinger of Dawn is, well, it's passable on Vaporized Nilou, but I wouldn't recommend it for Bloom Nilou because of all the self-damage Blooms do. You will likely never be above the 90% HP, but if you are going for Vaporize, you could probably better manage the 90% HP threshold. And that's all I have to recommend about weapons. Once again, my biggest disappointment with Nilou is how much of a clear-cut best in slot her signature weapon is. Nothing else even comes close to it. If you have it, you should always have it on Nilou. We're actually going to go to talents before we touch on artifacts or constellations. As you can see, I have leveled up my normal attack to level 2 because that's just what I do. I get all my talents out of the green books, so I can just combine all my green books up to larger books and never have to worry about green books again. It has, I don't know, though. I don't know how those compare multiplier-wise to other characters' normal attacks, but I'm just going to say 3-hit combo. It's the only thing in Nilou's entire kit that cares about attack. Everything else scales off of HP. So it's going to end up hitting like a wet towel, and you're just never going to touch these. Do nothing with it. We don't have statistics tabulated yet, but it's pretty easy to tell that first priority should be your elemental skill, second priority should be the burst, and never touch this. Maybe give it 1 level if, like me, you just want to be able to recklessly combine all your green books away without a second thought as to if you might ever want to level up a character's currently unleveled talents. Now, we have the dance, which is... I've leveled up to level 9, it is level 12 thanks to constellations. By tapping it once, you enter the pirouette state, dealing Hydra damage to nearby opponents based on Nilou's max HP. While she is in the pirouette state, Nilou's normal attacks and elemental skills will cause her to enter the sword dance and whirling stances respectively, causing damage she deals to be converted to Hydra damage that cannot be overridden, and that is considered elemental skill damage. That is why Haran Gapaku Futsu will not work on Nilou, as well as it will on someone else like Ayato. In these stances, Nilou's third dance step will end pirouette and has the following effects based on the type of said dance step. Sword dance, which is if you use a normal attack for this, unleashes a luminous illusion that deals Hydra damage to opponents it touches, and grants Nilou the lunar prayer effect. This effect converts Nilou's normal attacks into sword dance techniques, and her final hit will unleash a luminous illusion. And if you end with an elemental skill, Nilou unleashes a whirling water wheel that deals AoE Hydra damage, and creates a tranquility aura that follows your active character around, and applies wet to opponents within its AoE. The whirling water wheel deals AoE damage, but the tranquility aura that it leaves behind does not deal damage, it simply applies Hydro to opponents at preset intervals. The Hydro application is pretty good, but I would still recommend never running less than 2 Hydro characters in Nilou's Bloom comps, because, well, Hydro Resonance has been reworked, that's just extra max HP for you. Nilou wants about 75,000 HP to max out all of her talents. I am at about 72k HP. It only works on every flat interval of 1,000 HP, so say you have 70,990 HP on your Nilou, you'll still be getting the effect of 70,000 HP. That 990 will not count towards the count until you get another 10 max HP on Nilou to get her up to 71k. And also, Nilou will be unable to perform charge attacks when under the effect of Pirouette or Lunar Prayer, the base elemental skill, or the normal attack variant of it. She can only use normal attacks. She is locked out of charge attacks. She does not have special HP scaling charge attacks. As you can see, the skill damage is based on her max HP, as are the sword dance steps and the infused steps. They have fairly decent multipliers on them. Sword dance is going to be when you've already activated the 3 normal attacks after, or the third step being a normal attack after using your skill. While the whirling steps is what you're actually doing in the elemental skill state. The luminous illusion is also a subject of one of her constellations, so actually her constellation 1, so that does have a little bit extra there. The pirouette, the time frame where you have to enter either extra elemental skills or normal attacks to choose your stance before going on cooldown, is 10 seconds long, so you have 10 seconds in order to decide what you want to do, more than enough time. Lunar Prayer, which is the sword dance normal attack infusion, lasts for 8 seconds, and the Tranquility Aura afterwards lasts for 12 seconds, and the cooldown is of the entire skill is 18 seconds. This cooldown starts when you tap it the first time, not when you actually select a stance. So your cooldown is actually running during the pirouette duration, so if you want to space things out and take the entire 10 seconds, a Lunar Prayer can have theoretically 100% uptime, but it's not worth the DPS loss in my opinion to get that up 100% of the time. And Tranquility Aura, once again, will have closer to perfect uptime because of its 4-second longer duration. But you will typically have like 2 to 5 seconds of downtime on that as well. Her Elemental Burst is entirely max HP scaling. We have 2 hits of it. There is the initial hit, and then it will deal a second hit later, a couple seconds later, I want to say. And the lingering hit is stronger than the first one. Pretty simple, just max HP scaling. Yeah, begins the dance of faraway dreams and springs that hear, causing a lotus of distant waves to bloom, dealing hydro damage based on max HP and applying the lingering Eon effect to all opponents hit. After an interval, opponents affected by a lingering Eon will take hydro damage. That was less helpful than I thought it would be. It did not tell us a duration between the initial hit and the lingering Eon, but the lingering Eon is more powerful, so the second hit should be bigger than the first hit. And with enough pyro application, like say from 2 Jumpy Dumpties out of Klee, it should actually be possible to forward vaporize both of these hits if you are using this for big damage in vaporize teams. Now we have her first one, which is an absolute wall of text, which boils down to, as long as you're only using Dendro and Hydro and have at least 1 Dendro and 1 Hydro, your Bloom cores get upgraded to bigger Bloom cores that detonate immediately and cannot Hyper Bloom or Burgeon. And it also says whenever you take Dendro damage, aka from taking self-inflicted Bloom damage, your Elemental Mastery will be boosted by 100 for 10 seconds. A whole wall of text for just saying your blooms become bigger and detonate faster and can't do the extra bloom steps, and you get more Elemental Mastery, aka more bloom damage when you take bloom damage. Now we have a Dreamy Dance of Eons every 1,000 points of Nilou's max HP above 30,000 HP, so if your Nilou has 30,000 HP or less, might as well not even be playing Nilou because, well, you're a failure at everything. It will increase the damage dealt by the bigger blooms by 9%. The maximum increase in core damage that can be achieved this way is 400%. Once again, this only counts every full 1,000. It does not say give you 4.5% extra damage if you have, say, you're halfway to the next 1,000 and have like, 54,500. You won't get 54.5 instances of this. You'll get 24.5 instances, you'll get 24. This caps at 75,000 HP, It does not cap evenly. 75,000 HP will give you a little bit more, but 74,000 HP will give you a little bit less than 400. I want to say 74,000 is 396%, and 75,000 is 405%. Her exploration talent is just 12% chance to double the effect of stamina of stamina food. So food that restores stamina or food that reduces stamina consumption. Now we'll get on to her constellations. Dance of the Waning Moon, I mentioned this already when we were talking about the Sword Dance and Tranquility Aura. Dance of Hafkarsvar will be enhanced as follows. The Luminous Illusion, the third hit of the Sword Dance, its damage will be increased by 65%, and the Tranquility Aura's duration is extended by 6 seconds. This duration extension gives you guaranteed uptime of 100% on Tranquility Aura, no matter how quickly you go through the dance steps, as you will have 18-second uptime on an 18-second cooldown. Now we have Starry Skies, Their Flowers Rain. After a character is affected by the Golden Chalices, that's the A1 passive that gives you the bigger blooms. I'll start again on this. After characters affected by the bigger bloom buff deal Hydra damage to an opponent, that opponent's Hydra res will be decreased by 35% for 10 seconds. After triggering a bloom reaction, after a triggered bigger bloom deals damage to opponents, their Dendro res will be decreased by 35% for 10 seconds. You need to have access to the bigger bloom talent to use this constellation. This is just 3 levels to her burst. After the third dance step of Dance of Hafkarsvar's pirouette hits opponents, Nilou will gain 15 elemental energy, and damage from her Dance of, I believe that's the, from the elemental burst will be increased by 50% for 8 seconds. This is just energy recharge when you decide your stance. I do believe this will trigger whether you choose sword stance or aura. Increases the level of Dance of Hafkarsvar by 3, maximum upgrade levels 15. Probably hinting that they will eventually add in a 7th Ascension tier that lets us get to level 100 and bring our talents up to level 12 naturally. Frostbreaker's Melody, for every 1,000 points of max HP. This does not have a minimum requirement, so if you have 30,000, you'll be getting 30 stacks of this. Nilou's crit rate and crit damage will increase by 0.6% and 1.2% respectively. The maximum increase in crit rate and crit damage via this method is 30% and 60% respectively. These cap at 50,000 HP. 50,000 HP will give you 30% and 60%. As far as constellations that I feel are worth it, this is probably Nilou's most impactful constellation, as it gives you either more damage on the sword stance or permanent uptime on the aura. This is cool, but it's getting into whale territory. 3 and 5 are always just the same. They're always just more scaling, so they're kind of just meh. This is interesting. It's more for Vaporize, I feel, than Bloom, because with Bloom, this is just applying more Hydro. But more Hydro is good Hydro. This is the funny one, but once again, as a Constellation 6 on a limited banner 5-star unit, it's never going to be worth the cost. You're going to have to sink into it. I sunk into it because I'm stupid. Let me be stupid and you guys be smart. Now, artifacts. Nilou is always going to want 2-piece Tenacity of the Millelith. You do not want 4-piece Tenacity of the Millelith, as that boosts attack, which is a no-go for Nilou. Nilou's teams are majority reaction-based as well, so most teammates will not rely on attack either. And even in Vaporize Nilou is the one you want to get doing the vaping, and she has no use for attack, so 4-piece Tenacity is right out. I personally recommend 2-piece Tenacity and 2-piece either of the two that give you plus 80 Elemental Mastery. Those are either Wanderer's Troop or the new Gilded Dreams set. I've gone with Wanderer's Troop because I had better HP pieces available in Wanderers than in Gilded. Other sets that could be useful. I'm just going to go ahead and say the only other one that could be even feasibly put on Nilou is Emblem of Severed Fate, or, no, 2 others, Emblem of Severed Fate or Heart of Depths. That's really about it. Hydro damage or energy recharge. I don't think Nilou has a 4-piece set right now. which is partly why I do think Nilou is going to end up being the Kokomi of Sumeru, as I do think she will get a dedicated 4-piece set that has 2-piece HP and something more beneficial to her playstyle on a 4-piece later down the road. Artifacts are pretty simple. My Nilou is rocking 72,000 HP because if we look back at my artifacts, all 3 of my important pieces are HP main stat, but I got absolutely bodied on the HP substats on my Flower and Feather. Only 8% there and 16%, which is better, but still not quite enough to get me the 75,000 you want for maximum on her A4 Ascension talent. Now, we're going to do a Abyss 12 top half showcase, and then we just have a little bit more left in this review after that, because I am going to be combining this with my live stream predictions. So, I will see you when we're back at the Abyss. And we are back at the Abyss. I will only be showing the first half of each stage, so we will cut out the second half. I have chosen to do a Bloom Doom team in the first half, and since you won't be seeing the second half, I'm just doing a bit of a random BS Go team. Now, character energy recharge seems like the least bad out of these. Never choose these on the first or second chamber. They do become viable options on the third chamber of a floor. Now we're getting our bigger blooms up. And that's the first chamber done. We will be back in the second chamber. And we're back in chamber 2. Elemental skill damage is probably the best buff we have going for us here.
Positions. This dance is for you. Propagate. Germinate. Just like we rehearsed. All eyes on me.
Let's go ahead and just get our Dendro character's energy up for the next floor here.
Billowing surge. Hold the line.
And we'll be back when we are at Chamber 3. And we're back at Chamber 3 with some elemental burst damage for us.
Propagate. Rest and rebound. Spring forward. Hold it in, Go. Here. Let's move out.
And that is Chamber 3 done. We're gonna clear this out and then be back at the same spot we were before. And we're back to where we were before because, well, if we look at our map here, we're at an unused boss arena out here in the middle of the desert. This teleport waypoint is gonna be the closest to it. But starting off my version 3.2 live stream predictions, they are going to reveal one new boss here. It's going to be a Dendro dropping boss, and it's going to spawn in this arena here. Similarly to how over in the Rainforest there was an empty boss arena in version 3.0, that is now occupied by the Eon Blight Drake here in this version update. I'm also going to say that this Dendro boss is going to be needed for Nahida's Ascension, so it will be impossible to farm her boss drop mats early. It's basically all but guaranteed that we're getting Scaramouche as a weekly boss in 3.2, so I'm predicting a new weekly boss as well. And I'm also predicting that Nahida and Layla will use these materials from this new weekly boss for their talent level ups, making it impossible to farm those beforehand and making it slow to level up their talents right at the start. Aside from that, though, I am going to be predicting Nihida in the first wave of version 3.2, and I'm going to be predicting the long-awaited Hu Tao rerun alongside Nihida in the first phase, with Layla as a 4-star on their banners. The second phase I'm going to predict is the first banner for the second phase I'm going to predict as Tartaglia, aka Child, because just like Hu Tao, it's been a very long time since their last rerun. In fact, Hu Tao and Tartaglia have gone the longest amount of time between their most recent banners and where we are right now.
Yep, that's it.
And with that, I'm going to say the banner that will be accompanying Tartaglia will be Yae Miko, because she's a character that got hyper buffed by the introduction of Dendro, and we haven't seen her since 2.5. There are characters that it's been longer for, such as Eula or Shenhe, but I do think we are going to be seeing Yae Miko on the second half of 3.2, as they're probably saving some of the more Leah-focused reruns like Shenhe for the next Lantern, right? Now, with that out of the way, I do believe that means the 2 weapon banners will be Nihida's signature weapon alongside Staff of Homa, and then Polar Star and Kagura's Verity.
Exhale all your sleepiness into it, and then poof.
I'm not going to try and predict the events for version 3.2 as well, so we're not going to put in any predictions there. But I am going to try and predict the version 3.3 drip marketing. I am all but 100% certain that we are going to be getting a new 4-star in version 3.3, and that 4-star will be Mika. The little nervous Mondstatter boy we got introduced to in the Vinelesa Fest main storyline there, ever so briefly right at the beginning, reading out Grand Master Varka's letter. And I'm going to also say Dia in 3.3 as well, but I'm not too confident about Dia, and also if Dia is not drip marketed for 3.3, I think it will be 3.5 at the earliest before she shows up, as 3.4 is set to coincide time-wise with the Lunar New Year, and will likely be all Liyue all the time, so if we don't get Dia in 3.3, we're not going to get her till 3.5 at the earliest. With that, I am a big shrimp for Dia, so we're gonna be hoping she comes in 3.3, or do we hope she comes in 3.5 because I want to be able to C6R5 her as well? The eternal question, does a whale wail or does a whale not wail? We are going to be going for C6R5 on Nihida though. Joke's on me for saying this would be a rare occurrence during Nilou's video. Also, there's been a lot of rumblings and grumblings over the years about when another Fatui Harbinger will become playable. And the same name has come up over and over again. There have been rumors since as far back as, I want to say, version 2.2 for, Scaramouche is going to be playable next patch. Scaramouche is going to be playable next patch. But at the present time, we are getting a Scaramouche weekly boss in version 3.2. So, seeing as Tartaglia became playable, the update he got a weekly boss. And because Signora died, the update she got a weekly boss, I'm going to give Scaramouche a 50-50 chance of either dying in 3.2 or being drip marketed for 3.3. I'm going to err on the side of Scaramouche is going to die, though. That little brat seems irredeemable. Seems like he doesn't want to be redeemed, so I'm going to say Dia and Mika as the drip marketing for 3.3. Although, if Scaramouche does show up, I'll still count that as a loss on my part. And I won't count it as a win because I am calling never playable Scaramouche. The man is unredeemable. Or if he is playable, it won't be until after we've already met with the Tsaritsa herself in Snezhnaya and decided to join forces with the Fatui because, newsflash, Celestia's evil. So that is my predictions for version 3.2 livestream and the 3.3 drip marketing. We should know the live stream here pretty soon. I've heard rumblings that it's going to be this Sunday, October 23rd, 2022, for those of us in North America. And with that, we're going to bring this Nilou review to an end. I will be using my next Artifact Strongbox video to do the scoreboard reaction to the live stream where I go through and did I predict well? Did I predict poorly? So look forward to more Artifact Strongbox alongside that. I have been your Captain Whale. I hope you have enjoyed this video, Whale Pod. But until next time, I hope you all are having fantastic days. But this is Captain Whale, signing off.